I stared at my phone, reading the text from my younger brother Jason for the third time. "Hey man, cabin's packed this year. Parents invited Aunt Linda's whole crew. No space. You understand." I typed back a single word. "Okay." Because what else was there to say? This was the same story every year, just with different excuses. An hour later, scrolling mindlessly through social media, I saw it. My parents had posted photos from the airport. The entire extended family stood there, grinning at the camera, ready to board their flight to Lake Tahoe. Cousins, aunts, uncles, Trevor, with his perfect wife, even their Labrador retriever, Max, tongue hanging out happily. Everyone was there, everyone except me. My name is Philip, and at 28 years old, I should have been used to this feeling by now, but somehow, it never got easier. I set my phone down on my coffee table and looked around my small apartment in Sacramento. The suitcase I had packed 2 weeks ago sat by the door, a silent witness to my naive hope that this year might be different. I am the middle child of 3 brothers, and for as long as I can remember, I have been the one who gets forgotten. Not in dramatic ways that make for good stories, but in quiet, consistent ways that chip away at you over time. My older brother Trevor is 30 years old and works as a corporate lawyer in Denver. He drives a BMW, lives in a luxury condo, and married a woman named Heather, who looks like she stepped out of a catalog. My younger brother Jason is 26 and runs a craft brewery in Portland that has been featured in local magazines. He is charming, spontaneous, and always the center of attention at family gatherings. Then there is me. I teach history at a public high school. I love my job. I love when a student finally understands the significance of the Constitutional Convention or gets excited about the civil rights movement. But to my family, teaching is just nice. Not impressive. Not worth bragging about at dinner parties. I pulled up Jason's text again and read it more carefully. The cabin sleeps 12 people comfortably. I had been going to that cabin since I was 7 years old. I knew every creaky floorboard, every window that stuck, every bedroom configuration. I started counting on my fingers. Mom and Dad, Trevor and Heather, Jason, Aunt Linda, and Uncle Ray. Their 2 adult kids, Marcus and Julie. That was 9 people. Even if Jason brought someone, that was 10. 11 if you counted generously. My phone buzzed. A notification from Instagram. I opened it and felt my stomach drop. It was a story from my cousin Julie. She had posted a boomerang video of everyone at the airport gate, and I could see Jason's arm around a woman I did not recognize. The caption read, "So excited Emma gets to experience the family Christmas tradition, and her sister too." I sat very still. Jason had brought his new girlfriend Emma, and her sister. That was why there was no room. They had chosen 2 strangers over me. I set my phone face down and stared at the ceiling. This was not new. This was a pattern that stretched back years, and I could trace it like a timeline of small betrayals. 2 years ago at Thanksgiving, I had mentioned I could not eat gluten due to a medical issue. My mother had nodded, said she understood, and then served a meal where literally everything contained wheat. When I quietly made myself a salad from the vegetable tray, she had sighed loudly and said, "Well, I guess some people are just too picky to enjoy family holidays." I had not corrected her. I had just eaten my salad and smiled. When Trevor got engaged, the family had thrown him a massive engagement party. I had been told about it a week before, too late to arrange for a +1, even though I was dating Amanda at the time. I had shown up alone and spent the evening watching my parents gush over Heather while I refilled chip bowls and took out trash. When Jason opened his brewery, there was a grand opening party. I had driven 3 hours to Portland for it, excited to support my brother. When I arrived, Jason had handed me an apron and asked if I could help serve drinks because one of his staff had called in sick. I had spent the entire night working the event while Jason gave tours and soaked up praise. I never got to just be his brother celebrating his success. I was unpaid labor. Last year, I had earned my master's degree in education. It had taken me 3 years of night classes while teaching full-time. I had been so proud. My parents had promised to come to the graduation ceremony. The morning of graduation, my mother had called. "Honey, we completely forgot that Jason's birthday dinner is tonight. We already made reservations, you understand, right? We will celebrate you another time." They never did. Every single time, I had swallowed the hurt. I had told myself that keeping the peace was more important than my feelings. I had convinced myself that being the steady, reliable one was a role that mattered. But Amanda, my girlfriend at the time, had seen what I could not. 6 months ago, she had broken up with me. We were sitting in her car outside my apartment, and she had turned to me with tears in her eyes. "Philip, I love you, but I cannot watch you disappear anymore. You put everyone else first. Your family treats you like you do not matter, and you just accept it. You are so busy being invisible that you have forgotten you actually matter. I cannot be with someone who does not value themselves." I had tried to argue. I had told her she did not understand family dynamics, but she had shaken her head. "I understand that the people who love you should not make you earn basic respect. I am sorry, but I cannot do this anymore." Now, sitting alone in my apartment with a packed suitcase going nowhere, her words echoed in my head. I picked up my phone and looked at the family photo again. They all looked so happy, so complete, and I was not there. For the first time in my life, I felt something shift inside me. It was not anger exactly, it was more like clarity. I had requested time off work 2 months ago, specifically for this trip. I had bought gifts for everyone. I had been looking forward to the smell of pine trees and the sound of snow crunching under boots and the warmth of the fireplace at the cabin. But they had not made room for me. They had made room for Jason's girlfriend and her sister, 2 people who had probably known my family for all of 5 minutes. They had made room for the dog, but not for me. I stood up and walked to my bedroom. I opened my laptop and sat on the edge of my bed. My hands hovered over the keyboard for a moment. Then I typed, "Sedona, Arizona Resorts." The search results filled my screen with images of red rock formations glowing in desert sunlight, luxury casitas with private patios, and hiking trails that looked like something from another planet. I had never been to Sedona. I had never really traveled alone before. Family vacations had always been group affairs where my preferences were never asked and rarely considered. I clicked on a boutique resort called Desert Sanctuary. The photos showed a small property with only 20 rooms, each one a private casita with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the mountains. There was a spa, a restaurant that featured local ingredients, and immediate access to hiking trails. I checked the dates. December 23rd through December 30th, available. My cursor hovered over the Book Now button. This felt reckless. This felt selfish. This felt like something the old Philip would never do. I clicked it. The confirmation screen loaded. The price made me wince slightly, but I had savings. I had been setting money aside for months, thinking I might need it for family emergencies. My mother's car had been making weird noises last summer, and I had assumed I would be asked to help with repairs. My father had mentioned wanting to redo the deck. I had been waiting to be needed. But I was never needed. I was just expected to be available. I entered my credit card information and completed the booking. The moment I clicked the final confirmation button, I felt my heart racing. I had just spent $2,000 on a solo vacation to Sedona. I had never done anything like this before. I spent the next 2 hours booking everything I had always wanted to do but never suggested because someone else would have complained. A guided sunrise hike through Cathedral Rock, a hot stone massage at the resort spa, a pottery class at a local studio, dinner reservations at 3 different restaurants that had been on my list for years. By the time I finished, it was almost midnight. My suitcase still sat by the door, but now it was packed for a completely different trip. I needed hiking boots instead of snow boots, layers for desert temperature swings instead of heavy winter coats. I thought about calling my parents. I thought about texting Jason to tell him what I had done. But what would I say? That I was hurt? They already knew I was excluded and had not cared enough to fix it. That I was going on my own trip? They would probably be relieved they did not have to feel guilty about the cabin situation. So I said nothing. On December 23rd, I woke up early and finished packing. I double-checked my flight information. I made sure my apartment was locked up. And then, just before I called a rideshare to the airport, I opened Instagram and posted a photo. It was just my boarding pass to Phoenix, but I added a simple caption, "Taking some time for myself this holiday." I turned off my phone before I could see if anyone reacted. I did not want to know. I just wanted to go. The flight was smooth. I had a window seat and spent most of the 2 hours staring at the landscape below, watching California give way to Arizona. When we began our descent into Phoenix, I could see the red rocks in the distance, and something in my chest loosened. I rented a car and made the 2-hour drive north to Sedona. The landscape changed gradually, desert floor rising into those impossible red formations that seemed to glow from within as the afternoon sun hit them. By the time I pulled into the resort parking lot, the sky was turning shades of orange and pink that I had only ever seen in paintings. Check-in was easy. The woman at the desk was warm and efficient, handing me a key card and a map of the property. "You are in Casita 7, she said. "It has one of the best sunset views on the property. Enjoy your stay, Philip." The casita was perfect. One large room with a king bed covered in white linens, a sitting area with a leather chair and a fireplace, and an entire wall of windows that opened onto a private patio. Beyond the patio, the red rocks rose against the sky like ancient sentinels. I stood on the patio and took a deep breath. The air smelled like juniper and earth. It was quiet except for the occasional bird call. I was completely alone, and for the first time in longer than I could remember, alone felt like peace instead of punishment. That evening, I walked to a restaurant in town that I had read about. It was small and cozy, with wood-beam ceilings and a menu that changed daily. I was seated at a table by the window with a view of the main street, which was decorated with luminarias and white lights for the holidays. I ordered a glass of wine and the special of the day, which was a grilled trout with roasted vegetables. I had brought a book, a historical fiction novel about World War II, that I had been trying to finish for months but never had time for because I was always helping someone else with something. I was 3 chapters in when a voice beside me said, "Is that the new Anthony Doerr?" I looked up. A woman about my age stood next to the table holding a menu. She had dark hair pulled back in a ponytail and wore hiking clothes. She smiled apologetically. "Sorry, I did not mean to interrupt. I just finished that book last month and loved it." "No worries," I said, smiling back. "And yes, it is. I am only about 100 pages in, but it is incredible so far." "Mind if I join you?" she asked. "All the other tables are full, and eating alone on Christmas Eve feels a little too sad, even for me." I gestured to the empty chair. "Please." "No worries," I said, smiling back. "And yes, it is. I am only about 100 pages in, but it is incredible so far." By the time we finished dinner, it felt like I had known her for years instead of hours. We exchanged numbers and made vague plans to maybe cross paths on a hike. As I walked back to my casita under a sky full of stars, I realized I had had more meaningful conversation in one evening than I had had with my family in months. I fell asleep that night to complete silence, windows open to let in the cool desert air. I did not think about the cabin or my family, or what I was missing. I just slept. I woke Christmas Eve morning to my phone buzzing like it was possessed. I had turned it back on to set an alarm for my sunrise hike, and apparently that had been a mistake. 73 missed calls. Over 100 text messages. Voicemails filling up my inbox. I sat up in bed, confused and a little alarmed. Had someone died? I opened my messages. "My mother. Where are you?" "My father. This is unacceptable. Call immediately." "Jason. Dude. What are you doing?" "Trevor. You are being incredibly selfish." "Aunt Linda. Your poor mother is beside herself." I scrolled through message after message, my confusion turning to anger. What were they talking about? I had been told there was no room. I had made other plans. Why did they care? "Trevor. You are being incredibly selfish." Then, I found a message from my mother that was longer than the others. "Philip, we had a surprise planned for you at the cabin. We have been saving money to help you buy a house, and we're going to tell you on Christmas morning. The whole family was in on it. We thought you would show up anyway because family is family. We never actually thought you would not come. Now Christmas is ruined, and it is your fault. Call me immediately." The anger that had been simmering since I saw that airport photo finally boiled over. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone in hand, reading through the barrage of messages. Each one added another layer to my anger and confusion. My mother's texts became increasingly manipulative as I scrolled. "After everything we have done for you, how could you abandon your family on Christmas? Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is? Everyone keeps asking where you are, and we have no answer." Jason had sent a long message around 3 in the morning. "Look, I know the girlfriend thing was complicated. Emma really wanted to bring her sister, and I thought you would understand. You are always so chill about this stuff. I figured you would just make other plans or whatever. I did not think you would actually bail on the whole family. Mom is losing it. Can you just call her and smooth this over?" Trevor's messages were colder, more accusatory. "Mom has been crying for 2 hours. Dad's blood pressure is through the roof. Aunt Linda is upset. This whole trip is a disaster now because you decided to throw a tantrum. Grow up, Philip. Family means showing up even when it is inconvenient." I stood and walked to the window. The sun was just starting to rise, painting the red rocks in shades of gold and coral. It was breathtakingly beautiful, and I was standing here reading messages from people who had excluded me and were now angry that I had not read their minds. I noticed something as I read through all the messages. Not a single person had apologized for telling me there was no room. Not one of them had acknowledged that they had explicitly excluded me. They were all angry that I had not magically appeared despite being told not to come. The house money thing felt particularly hollow. My parents had never once asked me if I was looking to buy a house. They had never asked what I actually needed or wanted. They had just decided on a grand gesture that would make them feel good and expected me to be grateful. I typed out a response, deleted it, typed another, deleted that too. Finally, I wrote one simple message to the family group chat. I was told there was no room. I made other plans. Enjoy your holiday. I muted the group chat and set my phone face down. I got dressed for my sunrise hike, pulled on my boots, and grabbed a water bottle. The trail to Cathedral Rock started right from the resort property. The morning air was crisp and cool, perfect for hiking. As I walked, I tried to let the anger go, tried to focus on the stunning landscape around me. Halfway up the trail, I ran into Claire. She was sitting on a boulder, watching the sunrise, and when she saw me, she waved. "Could not sleep either?" she called. I climbed up to where she Saturday family drama, I said. She patted the rock beside her. "Want to talk about it?" I told her everything. About the messages, the supposed surprise, the expectation that I should have shown up anyway. She listened without interrupting, and when I finished, she was quiet for a moment. "Can I tell you what I see?" she asked. "I see a family that took you for granted for so long that they cannot handle you finally setting a boundary. They are not upset because they miss you. They are upset because you are not playing your role anymore." Her words hit me hard because they were true. I had always been the peacekeeper, the one who absorbed everyone else's dysfunction so they did not have to deal with it. And now that I had stopped, they did not know what to do. We hiked the rest of Cathedral Rock together, reaching the top just as the sun fully cleared the horizon. The view was incredible. Miles of red rock formations stretching in every direction, the desert floor far below. Claire took a photo of me with my arms spread wide, grinning like an idiot. "Send that to your family," she said. "Show them you are doing just fine." We hiked back down as the day grew warmer. Claire told me about her own journey with family boundaries, about the years she spent being the scapegoat until she finally started saying no. "It was the hardest thing I ever did," she said. "But it was also the most important, because once I stopped trying to earn their love, I could finally see who actually loved me, for real." That afternoon, I went to a candlelight meditation session at a small chapel in town. It was non-denominational, just a quiet space for people to sit and reflect during the holidays. I sat in a pew near the back and let myself feel everything I had been pushing down for years: the hurt, the anger, the grief for the family I wished I had. When I left, I felt lighter, not healed, but honest. I had stopped pretending. Back at the casita, I made the mistake of checking my phone again. More voicemails. I listened to one from my father. His voice was tight with anger. "You will call your mother right now and apologize. This behavior is unacceptable. We raised you better than this. I do not know what has gotten into you, but it ends now. Call her back." I deleted the voicemail. I was about to turn my phone off again when it rang. The caller ID showed Grandma Ruth. She was my father's mother, 86 years old, and the one person in my family who had always made me feel seen. She had not been on the cabin trip because her doctor had advised against high altitude due to her heart condition. I answered. "Hi, Grandma." "Philip, honey, I need to tell you something." Her voice was serious, "and I need you to listen carefully." "Okay," I said, sitting down on the patio. "Your parents are lying to you. There was no house money surprise." I went very still. "I talked to your mother this morning," Grandma Ruth continued. "She was upset, going on and on about how you ruined Christmas. So I asked her about this house money she was supposedly going to give you. She got real quiet, Philip. Then she admitted they made it up last night. The truth is, everyone at the cabin kept asking where you were. Aunt Linda apparently made a comment about how they could not make room for their own son but found room for strangers. Your parents were embarrassed. They had no good answer. So they concocted this story about a surprise to make you look like the bad guy for not showing up. They are rewriting history to save face." I could not speak. I just sat there, phone pressed to my ear, as my grandmother continued. "I have watched them do this to you your whole life, sweetheart. I should have said something sooner, and I am sorry I did not, but I am saying it now. I am proud of you for finally putting yourself first. You do not owe them an apology. You do not owe them anything. Do not you dare let them make you feel guilty for this." "Grandma," I managed to say, my voice rough. "Thank you. You enjoy your trip, honey. You deserve it. And when you get back, you come have dinner with me. Just us. I want to hear all about it." After we hung up, I sat on the patio for a long time, watching the light change on the rocks as the sun moved across the sky. My family had lied to me. They had created an entire false narrative to avoid accountability. And if Grandma Ruth had not told me, I might have believed it. I might have apologized. I might have spent the rest of my life thinking I had been the one in the wrong. But I knew the truth now. And there was no going back. Christmas Day started with another sunrise hike, this one solo. I needed time alone with my thoughts, and the trails provided that. The red rocks looked different every hour as the light changed, and I found myself noticing details I would have missed if I had been talking. The way juniper trees grew out of impossible cracks in the stone, the lizards sunning themselves on warm rocks, the absolute silence broken only by wind and my own footsteps. As I hiked, years of memories replayed in my mind with new clarity. Things I had explained away or minimized now looked different through the lens of Grandma Ruth's truth. But I knew the truth now, and there was no going back. After we hung up, I sat on the patio for a long time, watching the light change on the rocks as the sun moved across the sky. My family had lied to me. They had created an entire false narrative to avoid accountability. And if Grandma Ruth had not told me, I might have believed it. I might have apologized. I might have spent the rest of my life thinking I had been the one in the wrong. The Thanksgiving I supposedly chose not to attend. I had not chosen anything. I had the flu, a fever of 102, and I had called to let them know I was too sick to travel. My mother had said, "Oh, that is too bad," and then had never mentioned rescheduling or bringing me leftovers or checking if I was okay. 2 weeks later, when I saw her, she had said in front of the whole family, "Well, Philip decided not to join us for Thanksgiving this year," making it sound like a choice. Every single instance followed the same pattern. Exclude Philip, then reframe it as Philip's choice or Philip's problem when he reacted. They had been doing this for so long that they probably believed their own revisions. I sat on a boulder at the summit of Bell Rock and looked out at the vast expanse of Arizona landscape. For the first time in my life, I was not going to defend myself. I was not going to argue. I was not going to try to make them understand. I was just going to live my life, and they could be part of it or not, but only on my terms. By the time I hiked back down, It was almost noon. I showered, changed, and headed to the pottery class I had booked. It was held in a small studio downtown, taught by a local artist named Margaret, who was probably in her 60s with clay-stained hands and a warm smile. There were 5 other people in the class, all solo travelers spending the holiday doing something creative. We each sat at a wheel, and Margaret showed us the basics. My bowl was lumpy and uneven, but I made it with my own hands and it was mine. When it wobbled off center, Margaret just laughed and said, "Perfect is boring. Character is what makes art interesting." I thought about that as I shaped the clay. My family wanted me to be perfect, which really meant silent and accommodating. But I was finally discovering that I had character, and that was better. After the class, I had a massage appointment at the resort spa. I had never had a professional massage before. It had always seemed self-indulgent, but as the therapist worked out knots in my shoulders I did not even know were there, I realized this was not indulgence. This was care, and I deserved care. Dinner was at a steakhouse that had been on my list for years. I ordered exactly what I wanted without considering anyone else's preferences or dietary restrictions. A ribeye, medium rare, garlic mashed potatoes, a glass of good red wine. I ate slowly, savoring every bite, reading my book between courses. As I was finishing dessert, my phone buzzed. Claire had texted, "Some of us solo travelers are having a bonfire at the resort tonight if you want to join. 8 p.m. by the fire pit. No pressure." I showed up at 8 with a thermos of hot chocolate from the resort cafe. There were 6 people gathered around the fire pit, which was set into a stone patio with a view of the stars. Claire introduced me to everyone. Marcus from Boston, a therapist in his 40s, 2 women from Chicago, best friends who had decided to skip their family dramas and travel together, a retired couple from Minnesota who had lost their only child 5 years ago and could not face another Christmas of well-meaning relatives asking invasive questions. We talked for hours about family, about boundaries, about what it meant to choose yourself. Marcus, the therapist, said something that stuck with me. The people who genuinely love you do not make you earn basic respect. If you are constantly auditioning for someone's approval, that is not love. That is control. I told them about the fake house money surprise, and everyone's reaction was the same. Anger on my behalf. Not one person suggested I should understand my family's perspective or give them the benefit of the doubt. They all agreed that making up a lie to manipulate me into feeling guilty was cruel. "Here is what I tell my clients," Marcus said. "You cannot control other people's behavior, but you can control your response. And sometimes the healthiest response is to simply stop participating in dysfunction." One of the women from Chicago, Anna, raised her mug. To stop participating in dysfunction. We all toasted. It felt like a turning point. I got back to my casita after midnight, tired in the good way that comes from meaningful connection. I checked my phone one more time. More messages from my mother about how I was ruining her holiday. Jason saying I needed to fix this. My father demanding I call. But there was one message that stood out. From Trevor. It was long, and it was different. "Philip, I need to tell you something, and I need you to know I am saying this without Mom and Dad's knowledge. They asked me to lie and say the house money thing was real. They wanted me to back them up, to help sell the story so you would feel guilty and come crawling back. I went along with it at first because that is what I always do. I am the good son. I keep the peace. But Jason and I were talking tonight after Mom and Dad went to bed, and we realized something. We have both been treating you the way they do. Like you are disposable, like your feelings do not matter as long as we get what we want. I have been complicit in this for years, and I am sorry. I do not know if that matters to you anymore, but I am really truly sorry. I told Mom and Dad an hour ago that I am not participating in the lie. They are furious with me now. Jason is still on their side, still thinks you are overreacting. But I am done. I am done watching them scapegoat you and pretending I do not see it. I read the message 4 times. Trevor, the golden child, the one who had always been held up as the example I should follow, was seeing the pattern too. For the first time in my entire life, I was not completely alone in this. I texted back, "Thank you for telling me. That took courage." His response came immediately. "I should have had courage years ago. I am sorry it took this long." I fell asleep that night feeling something I had not felt in a long time. Hope. Not hope that my family would change, but hope that I could have genuine relationships with at least some of them. And that was enough. The next 2 days passed in a blur of beauty and peace. I hiked every morning, sometimes with Claire, sometimes alone. We visited art galleries in town where local artists sold paintings and sculptures inspired by the desert landscape. I bought a small painting of Cathedral Rock at sunset to remind me of this trip, of the moment I chose myself. Trevor kept texting updates. My parents were livid that he had refused to support their lie. Jason had called him a traitor. The atmosphere at the cabin was tense. Aunt Linda and Uncle Ray had started asking uncomfortable questions about why the family treated me the way they did. "I think I might leave early," Trevor texted on December 27th. "Being the favorite came with its own cage, and I am realizing I have been just as trapped as you were." I called him. It was the first real conversation we had had in years, maybe ever. He told me about the pressure of being the golden child, how every achievement had to be perfect because anything less would be letting everyone down. He told me he had envied my teaching career because it seemed like something done for love rather than approval. "I make $200,000 a year, and I hate my life," he said quietly. "You make a fraction of that, and you actually enjoy going to work. I think you might be the smarter one." Trevor kept texting updates. My parents were livid that he had refused to support their lie. Jason had called him a traitor. The atmosphere at the cabin was tense. Aunt Linda and Uncle Ray had started asking uncomfortable questions about why the family treated me the way they did. "I think I might leave early," Trevor texted on December 27th. "Being the favorite came with its own cage, and I am realizing I have been just as trapped as you were." "Do not leave the cabin early because of me," I told him. "Stay. Set your own boundaries. Show them what it looks like to say no without leaving. You are trying to change. That matters." On December 27th, my phone rang while I was having lunch at a cafe. Aunt Linda. I almost did not answer, but something made me pick up. "Philip, I owe you an apology." Her voice was thick with emotion. "I should have said something years ago. I have watched your parents treat you like you do not matter, and I have stayed silent because I did not want to cause family conflict. But that makes me complicit. I am so sorry." I felt tears prick my eyes. "Thank you for saying that. Ray and I are cutting our trip short," she continued. "We are not comfortable watching them scapegoat you and pretend it is your fault. We are driving home tomorrow. But when everyone is back, we would love to take you to dinner. Just us, if you are willing." "I would like that," I said. After she hung up, I sat in the cafe for a long time, watching tourists walk by in the December sunshine. The family structure I had thought was solid was cracking, shifting, revealing what had been hidden underneath all along. That evening, my phone rang again. My mother. I stared at it for 3 rings before answering. "Hi, Mom. Philip." Her voice was tight. "I think we need to discuss your behavior." Something in me hardened. "No, Mom. We need to discuss yours." Silence. Then, "Excuse me? You told me there was no room at the cabin. You made a choice to exclude me. Then you got embarrassed when people asked where I was, so you made up a lie about a surprise to make me look like the bad guy." Grandma Ruth told me the truth. "Your grandmother has no idea what she is talking about," my mother said, but her voice wavered. "Do not lie to me anymore," I said, and I was surprised by how calm I sounded. "I am not doing this anymore. I am not auditioning to be part of this family. Either I am your son, and I am treated with basic consideration, or I am not. But I am done being the punching bag. I am done being excluded, and then blamed for my own exclusion. I am done." "Philip, you are being incredibly dramatic." "No. I am being honest for the first time in my life. And if you cannot handle that, then we have a bigger problem than Christmas plans." More silence. Then, "I need to talk to your father." She hung up. I sat on my casita patio, shaking slightly. I had just confronted my mother. I had stated clear boundaries. I had not yelled or been cruel. I had just told the truth. 10 minutes later, my phone rang again. My father. I answered, bracing for anger. Instead, I heard something I had never heard before in my father's voice. Genuine remorse. "Philip." He cleared his throat. "Your mother is crying, but not for the reason you think." I waited. "She is crying because you are right. I just told her the same thing. We have been horrible to you. I do not have an excuse. I think we took you for granted because you never complained, because you always just accepted whatever we did. That is not a reason. It is just the truth." His voice cracked. "Trevor called me yesterday. He told me what he sees, what he has been part of for years. Aunt Linda called this morning and said the same thing, and I am looking at the pattern, son, and I am ashamed." I could not speak. My father had never admitted to being wrong about anything in my entire life. "I do not know if you can forgive us," he continued, "but I need you to know that I see it now. I see how we have treated you, and I am going to do better. We are going to do better, not because you forced us to see it, but because you deserve better. You have always deserved better." We talked for almost an hour. He did not make excuses. He did not ask me to forgive him right away. He just listened when I told him about years of hurt, and he owned every bit of it. When we finally hung up, I felt wrung out but also strangely hopeful. I did not trust it yet. Words were easy, change was hard, but for the first time, my father had actually listened. I spent the last 2 days of my trip in quiet reflection. I hiked, I read, I sat on my patio and watched the light change on the rocks. Claire and I had breakfast together on my last morning, and she gave me a hug that felt like it came from an old friend rather than someone I had known for 5 days. "You did something really brave," she said. "Not just coming here, but holding your ground. Do not let them convince you otherwise." We exchanged promises to stay in touch, and I meant it. She had been a mirror for me, showing me what it looked like to choose yourself without apology. On the drive back to Phoenix, I thought about what I actually wanted. I did not want to cut my family off completely. Despite everything, I loved them, but I also knew I could not go back to being invisible. I needed them to see me, and if they could not or would not, then I needed to be okay walking away. The flight home felt different than the flight out. I was returning to my life, but I was not the same person who had left. When I got back to my apartment on January 2nd, there was a letter in my mailbox. Handwritten envelope, Trevor's return address. I opened it standing in my living room. It was 3 pages long, a detailed apology, an acknowledgement of every time he had been complicit in my exclusion, a commitment to change, and an invitation. "When you are ready, I would love to take you to dinner. Just us, no parents, no Jason, just brothers trying to figure out how to be better." There was another letter from Aunt Linda and Uncle Ray. Similar sentiments, gratitude for my courage, an invitation to dinner. Nothing from Jason yet. My phone rang. My mother. I answered cautiously. "Your father and I would like to meet you for coffee," she said. "No preamble, if you are willing." "Okay," I said. "Tomorrow afternoon." The cafe on J Street. They were already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table. My mother looked like she had aged 5 years in 2 weeks. My father stood when I walked in, an old-fashioned gesture he had never done before. "We Saturday." The silence was heavy. My mother spoke first. "I owe you an apology." The words came out stiff, uncomfortable. She was not good at this. The extended family's reactions at the cabin made me see things I had been ignoring. I favored Trevor's success and Jason's charisma because it made me feel like I had done something right as a parent. You were steady and good, and I took that for granted. I assumed you did not need attention or praise. I was wrong. My father jumped in, more direct. "We were lazy parents to you, Philip. You did not demand things, so we did not give them. That is not your fault. That is ours." I sat very still, letting their words settle. "What do you need from us?" my father asked. I had thought about this on the plane ride home. Consistent effort. Include me in planning, not as an afterthought. Respect my time and my choices, and no more rewriting history. When you mess up, own it. Do not make me the problem because it is easier than admitting fault. They both nodded. My mother's eyes were wet. Can we try? She asked. I know we do not deserve another chance, but can we try? Yes, I said. But if it goes back to the old patterns, I am walking away. I mean that. Understood, my father said. We talked for another hour. It was not comfortable. It was not easy, but it was honest. As we were getting ready to leave, the cafe door opened and Jason walked in. He stopped when he saw us, clearly surprised. My mother waved him over. He sat down awkwardly, defensive. I did not know we were having a family meeting. We were not, I said. Mom and Dad asked to meet me for coffee. Jason looked at me, then at our parents. So are we all just going to pretend that Philip did not bail on Christmas? Trevor, who I had not noticed come in behind Jason, spoke up. Stop. Just stop, Jason. He sat down at our table. Philip does not owe you comfort while you justify hurting him. Either apologize for real or do not, but do not make excuses. Jason's face went red. He opened his mouth, closed it. Then, slowly, something shifted in his expression. I have always been jealous of you. I stared at him. What? You are good at relationships, Jason said quietly. Your students love you. You have this calm I have never had. People trust you. I excluded you because including you made me feel less special. That is pathetic, but it is true. I am sorry. The table went silent. I do not know how to fix this, Jason said, looking at his hands. Start by meaning it when you include me next time, I said. He nodded. Okay. It was not a perfect resolution, but it was real. 3 months passed. They were not perfect months, but they were different ones. Trevor and I started having dinner together once a month. Real dinners where we talked about actual things, not surface-level family updates. He told me about his marriage, which was struggling because he had built his whole identity around work and success. I told him about my students, the ones who were struggling and the ones who were thriving. We talked about our parents, about the patterns we had learned and were trying to unlearn. One night over pasta, Trevor said something that surprised me. Being the favorite destroyed me in ways I am only now seeing. I was never allowed to fail or be vulnerable. You, at least, were allowed to be human. I would have preferred being seen, I said. I know. I am not saying my experience was harder. I am just saying we were both damaged by the same system in different ways. Aunt Linda and Uncle Ray became unexpected allies. They invited me to their house for Sunday dinners, just the 3 of us. Aunt Linda told me stories about my father as a kid, about how his own parents had played favorites with him and his siblings. It did not excuse his behavior, but it helped me understand it. Jason's change was slower and more inconsistent. He would include me in plans, then forget to follow through. But when I called him on it, he apologized instead of getting defensive, small steps. My parents followed through in ways that mattered. When Easter planning started, my mother called me first and asked what dates worked for me. When my father heard I was thinking about buying a new car, he showed up at my apartment with Consumer Reports and spent 3 hours helping me research options. They were trying. It was imperfect and sometimes awkward, but it was real effort. In March, I started dating someone new. Her name was Sarah, and she was a librarian I met at a community event about local history. She was kind and funny and actually interested in my work. When I told her about the Christmas situation, she did not pity me or tell me I was brave. She just said, "Good boundaries are attractive." I invited Sarah to a family dinner in April. I was nervous, expecting my parents to compare her to Heather or make awkward comments. Instead, my mother asked Sarah about her work, genuinely interested. My father told embarrassing stories about me as a kid, but they were affectionate instead of mocking. Jason asked if Sarah had any brewery recommendations in town. Trevor and Heather invited us to join them for a concert. It was the first family dinner where I felt like I belonged. A small moment happened that meant everything. My mother was serving dessert, and she came to me first. "I got that pie you like, Philip. The apple one from the bakery on 15th Street. She had remembered. She had gone out of her way. It was such a small thing, but it was everything. Jason slipped up sometimes. In May, He sent a group text about a family barbecue at his place and forgot to include me in the chain. But an hour later, he texted me directly. I messed up. You are invited. Please come. I am sorry. The old Philip would have said it was fine and swallowed the hurt. The new Philip said, Thank you for apologizing. Yes, I will come. But please add me to the group chat so this does not keep happening. He did. Grandma Ruth and I had dinner once a week, just us. She told me she was proud of me at every single meal, and I never got tired of hearing it. You broke a cycle, she said. That takes courage most people never find. Claire and I stayed in touch. We texted regularly, and in June she came to visit Sacramento for a weekend. We hiked in the foothills and had dinner at my favorite local spots. You seem different, she said. Lighter. I feel different, I said. In July, I planned a trip back to Sedona. I invited Trevor and Sarah. I invited my parents too, but I made it clear. This was my trip, my plans, and they were welcome to join, but not to take over. They came. We hiked Cathedral Rock together. My father struggled with the altitude but kept going. My mother took photos of the red rocks and said, I see why you love it here. On the last night, we had dinner at the same restaurant where I had met Claire. I told them the story of that first night, of sitting alone and feeling peace instead of loneliness. I am glad you came here, my mother said quietly. I am glad you chose yourself. It was the closest she had come to fully owning what had happened. I accepted it. Summer turned to fall. My students started a new school year. A junior named Marcus, who reminded me of myself at that age, stayed after class one day. Mr. Philip, can I ask you something personal? Sure, I said. How do you deal with family stuff? Like when they make you feel invisible? I thought about it. I learned that I had to be visible to myself first. I had to believe I mattered even when other people acted like I did not. And then I had to be brave enough to say, this is how I need to be treated. Some people will rise to that, some will not. But either way, you will know where you stand. He nodded slowly. That makes sense. As he left, I thought about that conversation. I had become the person I needed when I was his age. That felt like purpose. In October, planning for Christmas began. The group text started with my mother asking everyone's availability. I was included from the first message. Jason suggested the cabin again. I felt my stomach tighten. Old wounds not quite healed. Trevor texted separately. If you do not want to do the cabin, I will back you up. I thought about it. Then I responded to the group. I am okay with the cabin, but I want to be part of the planning this time, not just told when to show up. My mother called me an hour later. What do you want this Christmas to look like? We planned it together. All of us. Dates that worked for everyone. Food preferences actually considered. Space allocated fairly. It was not perfect, but it was inclusive. When Christmas came, I drove to Tahoe with Sarah. We had our own room this time, not a couch or a sleeping bag on the floor. The cabin smelled like pine and cinnamon and wood smoke, all the smells I had loved as a kid. Jason greeted me at the door with a hug. Glad you are here, man. Trevor helped with my bags. My parents both hugged me, real hugs that felt like they meant it. That week was not perfect. Old patterns surfaced sometimes. But when they did, I addressed them calmly and clearly, and most of the time, people corrected course. On Christmas morning, we opened gifts together. My parents gave me a framed photo from Sedona, the one Claire had taken of me at the top of Cathedral Rock with my arms spread wide. To remind you, the card said, that you matter. Always have. Always will. I cried. Sarah held my hand. Trevor squeezed my shoulder. On the last day of the trip, I stood on the cabin's deck looking out at the snow-covered pines. My father came and stood beside me. You changed this family, he said. You know that, right? I just stopped pretending, I said. That is the same thing. Back home in January, back in my classroom, a student asked me about my Christmas break. I smiled. It was good, really good. What made it special? She asked. I thought about Sedona, about Claire and Marcus and the bonfire, about Grandma Ruth and Trevor's apology and Jason's admission of jealousy, about my parents actually trying. about Sarah beside me through all of it, about becoming visible to myself first. I learned that I was worth showing up for, I said, even if I had to show up for myself first. The student nodded thoughtfully and went back to her notes. But I sat at my desk for a moment, looking at the Sedona painting on my wall, the photo on my desk of all of us at the cabin this year, Sarah and me smiling. I thought about the journey from last Christmas to this one, from being excluded to being included, from being invisible to being seen. It had not been easy. It had required courage I did not know I had. But it had been worth it, because here is what I finally understood. Your worth is not determined by whether other people choose to see it. Your worth exists independent of recognition. But when you start seeing your own worth, when you stop contorting yourself to fit into spaces that do not make room for you, something shifts. The people who genuinely care about you will make the effort, and the people who do not will reveal themselves. Setting boundaries is not about punishing others. It is about honoring yourself. It is about saying, I matter, even when no one else is saying it for you, especially when no one else is saying it for you. Real family shows up, not when it is convenient, but when you need them. And sometimes that family is the one you are born into, once they learn how to actually see you. Sometimes that family is the one you choose, the Claires and Grandma Ruths and Aunt Lindas who recognize your worth without needing to be convinced. Setting boundaries is not about punishing others. It is about honoring yourself. It is about saying, I matter, even when no one else is saying it for you, especially when no one else is saying it for you. I look at my students now, and I see the ones who are invisible in their families. I see the ones who are trying to earn love that should be freely given, and I tell them, gently but firmly, you matter. You do not need to audition for basic respect. The right people will see your worth. The wrong people will make you question it. Choose the right people. And if you have to, choose yourself first. Because that Christmas in Sedona, sitting alone on a patio under a sky full of stars, I learned the most important lesson of my life. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot give to others what you refuse to give yourself. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for everyone, including yourself, is to simply say, I matter, and I am done pretending I do not. My family is different now, not perfect, not healed completely, but honest. And that honesty is the foundation for something real. I am different now, too. I still teach. I still care deeply about my students and my family and my friends, but I do not disappear anymore. I do not make myself small. I show up as I am, and I let people decide if that is enough for them. And the people who matter? They have decided it is more than enough. They have decided I was always enough. I just had to believe it first. So if you are reading this and you have ever felt invisible in your own family, if you have ever been excluded and then blamed for your exclusion, if you have ever wondered if you matter, you do. You absolutely do. And you do not need anyone's permission to start living like you matter. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give yourself is the simple, radical act of choosing you. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family members who took you for granted? How did you find the courage to choose yourself when everyone expected you to keep sacrificing? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It helps more people find these stories and realize they are not alone in their struggles. And if you have not already, subscribe to this channel for more real-life stories about family dynamics, boundaries, and personal growth. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that they matter, that their feelings are valid, that choosing themselves is not selfish. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope wherever you are in your own journey, you know that you are worth showing up for. You are worth making room for. You are worth the effort. Take care of yourselves. And remember, family is not just who shares your blood. Family is who shows up, who tries, who sees you. Choose wisely, choose yourself, and build the life you deserve.